Hi everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on copywriting. We're going to be talking, or Doru's going to be talking about how to create customer profiles for successful marketing campaigns. Today's webinar will last around 1 hour. If you have any questions during the webinar, please put them in the question box. We'll go through some of the questions at the end. I'm now going to hand over to Doru Catana, who's going to present this copywriting webinar to you.
Hello everyone, so I'm Doru Catana, thank you for the introduction. I guess we should dive in. First of all, I wanted to start out with what I think is a very good approach on copywriting, which is in 3 stages. You first have to think about your prospect and, in this context, your product as well. Does it meet a real need? Does it solve a problem people have? So it's very important to think about it. A lot of us, even good copywriters, have this problem of just falling in love with the product and promoting it without thinking of these aspects. Is it solving a real need? Is it about the prospect, not about what we have to sell? And then you have a very important part is you have to feel. I know this is not something we all enjoy because feelings are half good, half bad. But in this particular case is feel the exact problems, the needs that your prospect has, because a lot of the times they won't be able to fully express themselves. And if you could have that empathy, that connection with them, will make you writing copy much easier. It will make your sales messages much more effective. So it's very important to feel your prospect. And then you just go to writing. And if you have the first 2 parts really well defined, the thought process of what problem you're solving and the emotional need, then writing becomes very easy. And speaking of writing, that's the main focus of this webinar. So a lot of you might be expert copywriters or just starting out or having a mom and pop store or having a small online business that they want to grow. And when discussing with Paul and doing this webinar, initially I was thinking, okay, so what value can I bring all these people that will be listening to the webinar? And my first thought is, okay, so we have 1 hour, what can we do? Obviously, you can't learn copywriting overnight because it's a lot of trial and error. You have to write a lot of copy to do better. It's like sports or getting in shape. You have to do it for a long period of time, be it at least a few months to see some definitive results. It's like losing weight metaphor works perfect in this case. Without the discipline and doing it a few times a week, you won't see results. And even when you do see results, it's after a long period of time or weeks, months. So what you could do and see concrete, like actual results, better conversions overnight, is do proper research. And a big part of this research is defining your customer profile, basically identifying who you're speaking to. And when you know who you're speaking to, obviously the writing becomes a lot easier because you know what style to approach and on all those aspects, you know their needs, their emotion towards things. So like I said, defining your customer profile is the easiest way to get the fastest growth in terms of going from, okay, I suck at copywriting to I'm decent at copywriting. So moving on, like I said, it's the knowing your customer, and we'll talk about a lot of things. We'll talk about demographics and identifying the basic things like age, location, hobbies, interests, and stuff like that. And then we'll have another part. It's like we have the doing research and defining your customer profile, which is overlooked. And within this overlooked aspect of copywriting, we have psychographics, which is how your prospect, how your potential clients feel about things. And this is like, they might be very passionate about a specific sport. I know in the UK you're very passionate about football, so maybe having a football metaphor in your next headline might work, especially since it's the Euro 2016 right now. So like I said, it's very important to not neglect this emotional side of the customer profile as well, besides the demographic side of things. So who am I? I'll cover this very briefly so you know why you should maybe listen to me. I started out as a freelancer, I think like 9 years ago. Part-time worked for a marketing agency, so that's where when I first was exposed to copywriting. Eventually, I started my own agency, grew to a team of 6. We had I think we had over 200,000 in profits a year, which is quite good for such a small team. We handle a lot of big campaigns, even for brands like Heineken, and we had a lot of beer clients, don't know why. So so I guess beer is very emotional, or people are emotional with it when they drink beer. And the reason why I dived into this training programs industry is because I wanted to scale myself and my team, because if you have one, you can have so many clients. Basically, the equalizer is that we all have 24 hours in a day, right? So at some point, you just don't have enough time for the number of clients you would like to have, and to create the campaigns you would like to create. And the only way to reach more people is by scaling yourself through courses, or at least that was the solution I chose at the time. So my personal interest for doing webinars and creating courses is to reach more people and hopefully impact and improve the businesses of as many people as possible. And it's always extremely rewarding to me when a client, for example, recently I had a client from Portugal, never heard of him. He watched my course, owns a restaurant, and sent me an email and said, yeah, I followed your course, did this and that, got great results. So that's always at the same time rewarding and humbling, and gives you pride that you improved someone else's life. But enough about me, let's get down to the main problem why we're here. So the easiest way to, you might ask, why should I care about the customer profile? Because everyone is my customer. As a marketing agency, we always had this discussion with clients. So who is your target customer? And they all go like, everyone is my target customer because I sell boxer shorts or something like that. So even if you have a generic product or a product that's addressed that's mainstream, I don't know, if you're Coca-Cola and you sell fizzy drinks to the entire planet, even then you still have a customer profile. So the reason why this is important is once you know your potential client, you could get inside his head. And this boils down to joining a conversation that they are already having. Because otherwise you're interrupting. And that's sales and marketing. That's what us marketers do. We always interrupt people. So you're watching the game, you're watching Game of Thrones or your favorite TV series, and bam, you have marketers that interrupt you with an ad. And that's always disturbing, and that's always why sales is not necessarily viewed as a good thing. So if you are addressing people and talking about something that's already on their mind, that's always, it's like you put your foot in the door. That's always a way you can reach people because that's what they're already talking about. It's like having a conversation with someone on the street that you're already an expert on. It's much easier to join the conversation, and you're not perceived as an intruder. And for that, you need to know your customer. Another reason why it's very important to have a proper and detailed customer profile is, you know, the saying, talk to me about my favorite subject and you already have my attention. So this doesn't necessarily need to be your product. You see a lot of these brands that are mainstream, like beer brands, fizzy drinks, and a lot of brands that address everyone. They don't promote themselves as, okay, so I'm Coke and I'm selling a pop drink. So it's not that. They associate with famous pop stars. They associate with singers because that's the favorite subject of most people that are their target audience. So whenever you create your next campaign, think about that. I mean, what's on the besides your product and the problem it solves, what's the need or what's the interest of your target audience? Do they listen to a specific music? Do they like a specific TV series? I mean, what do they do in their extra time as a hobby? And when you determine this and are very precise and rigorous about it, what this can do for you is give you another way where you could, another platform, another medium where you could reach them, because you're no longer, okay, so I'm promoting this. You'll be, okay, so although this applies, I'll give an example, but although this applies to big companies, if your product fits a specific need, maybe you should advertise during the airtime of that specific series. Or in your case, maybe you should advertise on the, if you're a smaller company, you should advertise on the website of that specific artist or on a platform or on a news site that discusses about that specific artist, hobby, favorite singer, or whatever. I hope you got the idea on talking about their favorite subject. So moving on, so we don't lose any more time on this. Another important aspect, once you get to know someone, is that you're able to speak in their own style. Basically, I don't know, it's like if you go to a formal event and are dressed in, I don't know, in your pajamas, or are dressed like you go to, I don't know, to a pub. So it's very important to know the context, and if you know your prospect well enough, you'll be able to tell the jokes they tell amongst themselves. You'll be able to understand the subtle approaches that you can make in whenever you word your headline or you word the pitch that you have in your website, and it's all about speaking the same language as they do. And you can't do that without fully understanding them, knowing a lot of details about what jokes they find funny, what they're passionate about, what they do in their spare time, and all the things that I already repeated myself make the customer profile. And another important thing is that, as I said in the first slide, empathy is God-sent. The more you could be at the heart of the problem, the more you could resonate, you could be on the same tune with your prospect, the easier it gets. That's why in the fitness industry, people that lose weight and tell their story are, I think in like 80% of ads, if not more, you have the success stories of people, okay, I was overweight, I had like 250 pounds, and now I'm super fit. Those stories work because people feel that okay, so that's someone that feels the exact same pain, that had the exact same problem as I had. And that's why they work. And you could do this if you know your customer well enough. So if you know them well enough, they won't be, okay, so they won't be judgmental or suspect you of trying to sell them something. They'll be, okay, there's a guy or a gal that feels my pain and wants to solve it, and I trust them because they were in the same shit situation that I am right now. So they were at some point in that same horrible circumstance that I am right now. And horrible doesn't necessarily need to be a tragedy. Horrible can be, I don't know, something as as mundane, something mundane, and like I said, our problems are always the biggest, so everyone else's problems are always smaller than ours. Moving on, this is usually a very hard truth whenever I have a call with clients or whenever you tell someone that nobody actually cares about their business, about what they have to sell, about their own problems. So always have that in mind, that your prospect, your potential clients are always looking out for themselves. They're not looking out for okay, so what new offer does Steve has to share with me today? They always, I have a problem, can Steve solve it? If Steve can't solve my problem, then I don't need Steve today. So they're very selfish, and although people don't like to think of themselves as selfish, they always are, and they always try to find a way to solve their own problems and live their own dreams, and that's actually natural because each and every one of us owes it to himself or herself to become the best version of ourselves, to give us the most rewards out of life, and to live in general. And another important part of doing proper research and having a very well-defined customer audience and customer profile is that it will save you money. I mean, and at the end of the day, bottom line is very important, because we're not in business just to make good deeds and change the world. We need to be profitable. We all have bills to pay. We all have mortgages, insurance, and all the expenses of life. So it's very important, because the more you investigate, the more you know about your target audience, the less you will spend on random campaigns, the higher your click-through rate, the higher your conversion rate, because your ads and your copy in general will be more effective and will resonate more with the people that are seeing the ads. So it's not just about getting better at copywriting, it's about not wasting money, and that's important for any business. So we've reached finally discussing the part about your client profile. You could take notes, and this is, I think, just a single page would be enough for notes, and you should always have this in mind whenever you create a marketing campaign. So you have the demographic side of things, where, as I said, you'll find things like age, location, gender, and if they have children or pets, and all those aspects that are included in the demographics aspect. And then you have psychographics, how things make them feel. Do they get angry about a specific topic? Are they very passionate and feel energetic when you talk about a different subject? So knowing all these aspects will help you a lot in having very effective headlines, and your click-through rate. For those of you who don't know what click-through rate is, it's the percentage of people that click your ad or email if they open it whenever you send it. So if you have a 10% click-through rate, it means out of 100 people, 10 people clicked the ad, opened the email. So actually for email it's open rate, but the concept is very similar, because it's about relevance. The more you know about your customer or lead or prospect, the more relevant your ads will be, the more relevant your approach would be when reaching out, be it ads, and even this works even face-to-face. And I don't know how many of you meet clients face-to-face, but it's always very important to do a bit of, you can call it stalking, before you meet a potential business partner, potential client, or, I don't know, employee, associate. I mean, if you do this with employees, why not do this with clients, with business partners, with associates, with everyone you're involved in when you do business? And regarding the tools, I'll quickly share some tools that you could use here. You have the first two ones are Google AdWords and Facebook Ads. and you don't need to spend a single dime. I'll show you in a moment what exactly you could do. What these two allow you is to determine the size of a specific, you could call it market. In this case, I think we could call it need. So if, I don't know, let's say you have a company that sells solar panels, you could determine how many people are searching for solar panel kits, solar panel setups, and you could basically identify if there's a big enough market for the problem you're solving or for the product you're promoting. And the same you could do with Facebook ads. And the good part of this is that you don't need to spend a single dime. You just use the tools, get the info you need without spending a single dollar or pound. The next two tools you could use to get demographics data are alexa.com and quantcast.com. And you just go to these websites. I'll go and do that just in a moment. And you type in either your own website or the website of a competitor and see the demographics of people that access their website. Alexa is a bigger tool and indexes a lot more sites, but Quantcast, although it doesn't have the same portfolio of websites, so if your website is a bit smaller, it won't have any data in Quantcast. What it shows you a lot more data in terms of your prospects, things like earnings, if they have pets or not, and you'll see that in just a moment. But besides all these tools that you could use, I hope you already are doing the following two, which is using Google Analytics for your website, where you can see all this data and also have a lot of info on what pages on your website people see. This way you find out more about what's higher on their interest list. So for example, let's say you have a blog on your website, depending on what specific articles got the biggest attention, you know what is at the top of the interest list of your prospects. And then you have surveys. And surveys, the easiest way to get info on demographics without using these tools, without everything else I've spoken in this webinar so far, is just sending out an email to all your clients, to all your list, to your entire list, and saying, hey, could you complete this short survey? It will take you just 3 minutes. And always, it's very important because this simple tip is always neglected by people. Incentivize. Basically, offer them something you reward. So you're asking for 3 minutes of their time. Say something like, okay, we'll have 5 lucky winners who will get a iTunes gift card or an Amazon gift card or a free month of our software or something like that, or I don't know, free upgrade or discount, depending on, it depends a lot on your business. So always, if you do send out a survey, incentivize people, because you're asking for something, and if you're not giving something in exchange, people, there still will be some people that will complete the surveys, but your completion rate will be a lot higher if you offer something in return. And this reaches back to the principle I said earlier about people are innately selfish, and if they don't have a benefit for doing something, the odds of them actually doing it are much smaller. So I'll interrupt this a moment and we'll go. So this is alexa.com, one of the tools I was talking about. And I don't know, I'll just enter Amazon right now, but you could do this with any website. And you'll see global rank, you'll see a rank, usually here we have the rank that is in the country that it's the highest, so in this case it's United States. If you have a more local website, you'll see that it has the global rank, and then you have the rank for the country that is most popular in. And you have demographics in terms of where they're located, the first 5 usually. You have bounce rate, you have a lot of data that apparently might not be useful, but is extremely powerful if you know how to interpret it, how to properly translate it into English from numbers. So bounce rate usually means, for those of you, hope I'm not boring with the definition of bounce rate, the people that know what this is usually the people that leave your website like right after they enter it. So the higher the bounce rate means the less relevant the content on the website for people that are reaching it. So a low bounce rate is a good sign, is a sign of a healthy business, of healthy traffic being sent to that particular website. Then you have the top keywords for which that website is getting traffic, and also the referring websites, basically from which websites does that, I don't know, be it your own business or a competitor, get traffic. So in this case, you see that 21% of the referring traffic for Amazon comes from Google, 5.2% comes from Facebook, and so on. So this is Alexa. I encourage you to go to alexa.com, play around with it, type in your own website, type in the websites of some competitors, or even some companies and brands that you like and follow, and get a better understanding of the demographics of the audience. Then we have Quantcast, and we'll do the same thing. So, like I said, the downside of Quantcast is that it sometimes it doesn't show data if your website is too small. So I'm sorry, but it's a great tool, but if the traffic is low, won't be that effective. So we have, why is this not quantified? I don't know why it doesn't really seem to be working for. We'll do one of their demos. Okay, so that was why I was a bit panicked, because usually I was expecting all this. I don't know, maybe I typed something wrong. So you see the traffic, which shows you the size of a business, but what is extremely important, you have the demographics data. So as you can see, this website has a lot more males than female users. So you could use that data in your marketing campaigns. Also very important, you see the age groups. So depending, it might be if your audience is older, you'll adapt the style and approach of your campaign. Then you also have education level. As you can see, a lot more people with no college are accessing this website. You also have ethnicity. So you can go into more details and see the exact percentages of the composition. So as you can see, no college 48%, college 42%, have ethnicity, and this data, like I said, extremely useful whenever you create a sales message. So if you see you have a lot more males than females, maybe whenever you create a campaign and offer a prize, if you offer something relevant to men, the chances of people enrolling in that competition or the message being effective towards them, for them, is much higher, because you know all this data. And then we have Facebook ads. And to go here, you just go to facebook.com/ads and create an ad. And you reach this page, and as you can see, currently I just have the UK here, so we have about 18 million people. And what you could do to identify a niche, for example, let's say I'm targeting students with a campaign, doesn't really matter what campaign. So I'll go as 18 to maybe 24. As you can see, the potential reach change, so I have 5.5 million people now. And then you could target a lot of the demographics info. So you could target education, you could target field of study, and let's say we go for fields of study, and we have engineering, or we could go English. And for people studying English, I see we have 24,000 people. So you could remove this and also play with a lot of things, like you have interests and entertainment, you have family and relationships. You could see people who've recently started dating someone. As you can see, we have like out of the 7.4 million people with our current reach, people who are recently dating are 154,000. So you could access a lot of info like this. So we have 1.4 million. You could play around with the demographics a lot. I mean, literally you could spend hours on end here, and for a while now I think they introduced this behavior feature, I think like 2 years ago. You could also target things like, as you can see here, expats. You could target things like digital activities. For example, you could target Facebook page admins, photo uploaders. I think there was at some point, like you have here gamers and even technology early adopters. And how Facebook gets this data, it basically screens the entire content and see some repetitive behavior. So whenever, let's say someone says, okay, so I just bought the HTC Vive, the VR device, for those of you who are not like early technology adopters, and if they see people like that buying the latest graphics card from NVIDIA, they put them in this category, and this helps you a lot. And it helps you a lot because you might have a very niched product. Your product might be something with a total audience of, I don't know, 5,000 people in the entire country. And having all this this targeting, this demographics targeting, could help you even with the obvious part of doing Facebook ads and reaching those people, but also in identifying the size of your audience. And speaking of the size of your audience, you have Google AdWords. I think most of you know what Google AdWords is, but for those of you that don't know, it's Google's ad platform. And to reach this page, just go to Google AdWords, you go to Tools, and then you go to Keyword Planner. And you wait a second for the page to load. Okay, so what you can do is, let's say in this case we have the United States, and let's use their example. We go for used cars and see. Go to Get Ideas and see that like 500 and you have like 500,000 people search on a monthly basis for used cars, and you could do this for all the keywords relevant to your business. So for example, let's say you own a flower shop and you just do a search for flower shop and you have like 60,000 searches each month. Or flower deliveries, and also what you could, the benefit of Google AdWords Keyword Planner is that you could get even more ideas with the Keyword Ideas tab and see the number of searches for different keywords relevant to your product, relevant to your business. And like I said, the focus of this webinar is it's not a Google AdWords training program. It's just to show you that you could use all these tools for free and get access to data that, if you think about it, imagine that like 20 years ago or 30 years ago, it would be out of your mind. If you were a marketer 30 years ago and someone would have told you, okay, so there are these tools that you could determine the demographics of the people that come in your shop, or the demographics of people that go in your competitor's shop, or you know how many people are in need of what you have to sell. I mean, if you thought of that as a marketer 30 years ago, you'd be like, your head would explode. And now you have all these tools accessible free of any charge that you could use. Even if you wake up with a business idea at midnight, you could determine if it's a good business, if it has potential, if there's a need for the problem you want to solve for your product. So these are very powerful tools, and I encourage you to use them as often as possible, as often as you want to test out a new idea, a new campaign for your company, or even for a hobby that you might have. So enough with the tools. We'll get back to the presentation. Okay, so these were the tools. Then comes this is a bit on the psychographics part of the customer profile. And as I said, we have you need to know and understand how your customer, how your prospect feels. So you need to know what angers them, what makes them happy, what they get hyped about. And you could do this obviously by asking them, or just if you are friends with them on Facebook, or if you follow them on Twitter, on LinkedIn, you'll find all this information. Obviously, if you have a lot of potential clients, this will be hard. But if you're in a business where you have a very select audience with very few people, it's extremely easy and effective to keep track of them. And if you mix this with a CRM software, something like High-Rise, for example, is a CRM that I always used, was made by the guys that made Basecamp. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. So, but any CRM would do. So if you do this customer profile with a CRM where you have the customer profile is a global thing, and the CRM, you get very micro. You go from the macro to the micro in terms of targeting. It's very effective. So something that a lot of people, when they create a customer profile, forget or overlook is that you might have multiple types of customers. For example, you might determine that 70% of your audience is B2C, business to consumer, and 30% of your business is B2B. In that case, you'll need to create two different profiles for each of those entities. And it's always great if obviously you'll focus on the 70%, but if you have a customer profile for 30%, so it's always important not to overlook their interests as well. And since we're on this slide, it's the Stanislavski method. So I was talking about emotions and getting to know how your prospect feels about specific things. And this was initially invented in a Russian theater by a guy named Stanislavski, who was the theater director. And it's very important to ask yourself, if you were in that particular situation, how would you react? And this will help you in a lot of things. It will help you in writing copy, obviously, but it will also help you when you do things like optimize your website. For example, you'll be like, I'm Joe and I have this problem, and I go to your website. And if you go into the mind of Joe, and okay, so I'm on the website, how do I get from just entering the page to making a purchase and having my problem solved? And if you do the role-playing part, if you act like Joe when you're on your website, it will help a lot to optimize the fluency and the entire flow in the purchasing process. So it's very important to use this and see it not from a theater technique invented a couple 100 years ago, but to see it from a usability point of view, from a very modern, high-tech, like Google Analytics point of view. So it's very important to test this out. Also, there's this very famous business advice: never underestimate how wrong you could be. And this is very important when it comes to how you think people might use your website in comparison to how they actually use it. Okay, so moving on, this is the second part that you need to clarify that is adjacent to the customer profile and still very important, basically goes hand in hand, is to determine what are you really selling. A lot of times you might think, okay, so I'm Samsung and I'm selling smartphones and tablets and TVs and things like that. But what you're actually selling is not the device itself, but what the device offers. So For this, it's very easy to follow this process. You go from features, so let's say you have a smartphone and you could advertise and say, okay, we're selling this great smartphone with a 12 megapixel camera. However, if you go deeper in this entire layer process, you'll identify that there's a function you're actually selling, and this is the function that you could take photos. So you're no longer selling a 12 megapixels camera, you're selling a device that could immortalize some moments. You have the practical side of things, that you could do it at any point in the day because you always have your phone with you. And then you go to the last layer, which will improve your conversions, is the emotional benefit. And it's that you're not selling a 12 megapixel camera, which is the feature. You're actually selling people a way that they could immortalize a beautiful moment in their lives. They could take a picture of their newborn. They could take a picture of their project that they've been working on for the past 6 months. They could take a picture of them getting in shape after going to the gym for a year. And if you promote your product this way, addressing the emotion they get, hopefully the good emotion they get from getting your product or service, it will be much more effective than having an ad that says, okay, so I'm selling a 12 megapixel camera. Always address the emotion. That's very important. Okay, so moving on, we go to the core of copywriting. So far, we've discussed a lot the part of the benefits and the importance of doing proper research, of creating a customer profile, and an aspect that is always overlooked, especially by people just starting out in marketing or in copywriting. So if Paul or if anyone could, I don't know, pause this for a second and maybe have a short Q&A so far in terms of maybe the tools I shared or any questions on your customer profile, I'll be happy to answer them. Anyone?
So does anyone have a question for Doru at this point of the webinar? Let's have a look. Doru, it doesn't look like there's any questions coming in at the moment.
Okay. But we'll move on.
We'll move on for now, and hopefully there'll be some questions at the end. Okay, so since you don't have any questions, hope I explained everything pretty clear. And this part of the webinar will focus on you writing the actual copy. So you've done the hard work, which is doing proper research, identifying the target audience, knowing what you're really selling, addressing that emotional benefit, that emotional need that you're actually solving. And if you did all that right and you don't know anything about writing copy, about writing catchy headlines, this will be extremely easy. Because at the end of the day, writing copy is not as difficult as it seems, and if you know who you're writing for, it gets a lot easier. Okay. So the most important part of your headline, of your copy, is the headline. Because I remember this great quote on copywriting: if the headline doesn't grab the attention of your prospect, your entire copy might as well be written in Greek. So it's very important to grab attention. And it's not just grabbing attention, it's grabbing attention by being relevant. I think any of us or most of us have seen, you know, those ads with a big font that says sex, and underneath with a smaller font saying, now that I have your attention. Well, although maybe funny and entertaining, what those ads fail to do is be relevant. Okay, so you got my attention,
but your ad is totally not relevant to me, or you might got the attention of the wrong people. And if I'm not your target audience, if I'm not the person that needs your product or service, then why even get my attention and waste my time in the first place? So once again, never neglect the importance of your headline and make sure it solves the problem of grabbing attention. And you could do this in a plethora of ways. Usually, a very easy way is to make people curious. And you've probably seen this type of approach in a lot of tabloids. Things like, I don't know, find out what this plain girl did to make herself beautiful. You're instantly, okay, so what did she do? Or find out what these people did last night, or basically things that make you curious. And in online mediums you call them clickbaits, but they work. That's the point of it. And if they're relevant, if the landing page where people, the problem with clickbaits is that the page you get to after you click the ad, after you click the headline, is that the problem is that it's not relevant. If the landing page would be relevant, then guess what? You would get conversions, you would get sales, or whatever your objective is. Maybe your objective is just to create awareness. So it's very important to infuse curiosity in your ad, in your headline. Also, I've already spoken about this to great length. It needs to be relevant. Relevancy is probably the most important thing. You've heard, if you've been listening to any famous marketer, you've heard a lot of the time that like content is king. Well, context is even more important, because even the right content in the wrong context might be useless, even if it's great content. So it's very important to be relevant in your ads, in your marketing campaigns. It's important to be relevant in everything you do in life, actually. So moving on, it also needs to be credible. So this is one of the most difficult things to do. It's like trust. Trust is something that you build over time. It's trust in a relationship, trust in business. It's usually something that takes time. It's not something that you could force. That's why being credible and having people to instantly trust you after just seeing a headline or after just seeing an ad, it's probably the most difficult thing in marketing and in the world of advertising. But if you could do this, you usually do this through testimonials. You usually do this by offering a trial period for your software if you offer something like this. Or and this trial concept has been used for like hundreds of years. And when you go to the market and you taste, I don't know, you want to buy a pound of cherries and you taste one and see, okay, it's good, I'll buy 1 or 2 pounds. So having a way to minimize, if you can't remove completely the risk of your prospect, is always a great way to build credibility, because if they have nothing to lose, they won't be so reluctant to become prospects and won't look at you like, okay, so this company just wants my money. So it's very important to never neglect this aspect in your headline, in your copy, if you want to have great results. Moving on, we've also approached this as well. It's touching an emotion. Like I said, easiest way to get a client is solving an emotion, is offering an emotional benefit, solving an emotional problem. Think about it. I mean, dentists do so well because you're in pain and it's very stressful, it's very intense, and that's why you don't care how much it costs, you want the pain to go away. And usually the bigger the pain, the higher the revenue, the higher you could charge for your product or service. So you need to deeply think about what you're offering. What is that emotional benefit? It can be one or more that your product addresses. I gave the example with the smartphone, with the camera, and the emotional benefit it offers. You could always take a moment, take a few days even, and think about what emotional benefit does your product, does your business solve. It's very important. And if you'll test this, I actually encourage each and every one of you to reach out to me, test this out, and you'll be amazed by how much better response rate you get in anything you do if you address an emotional problem rather than a feature. Even if you're business to business. In fact, I hate this concept of business to business, because at the end of the line of that conversation, it's still a human being, and it's always people to people. It's never like business to consumer or business to business. The decision of making a purchase is still made by a person. It's not an entity you call the company. It's still a human being with their own worries, with their own needs, and maybe if it's business to business, they don't think about their emotional needs and their worries. They think about the company's needs, about the company's problems, but it's still the same thing and the same principles apply. Moving on, does it show conviction? And this is quite there's a concept that we've all seen in life, and I don't understand why more people are not using this. I'll use a sports metaphor because it's easy to understand. Think about why do you think we all like sports? It doesn't necessarily need to be the same sport. Some like football, some like basketball, but we all get hyped up whenever someone does something with conviction. If you have a goalkeeper that saves that shot, that's like it's a sure goal, and he saves it. Or if you have anything that's spectacular, where someone went the extra mile and has shown conviction, is something that we love as a species. So if you can maybe show, doesn't necessarily need to be something like impressive and world-changing, but if you show conviction and your copy can be something, even something as simple as, okay, so I'll give you actually a personal example. So I've recently bought the Logitech MX Master mouse, not because I didn't have a proper mouse. Like I said, the area where I spend stupid amounts of money is electronics. So it's not because I didn't already have a functioning mouse. It's because they had this very interesting video where they showed initially someone who sculpted in wood, or I think it was clay, the shape of the mouse. Then they had it in this silent room with all this acoustic foam, seeing, okay, is the mouse noisy or not? And they created an entire story about how it's made, basically. And also it had that emotional aspect of, okay, this is how much we care about building a perfect product. And that conviction they had, that determination of, we're going to create a perfect mouse, and after having it for a month or so, it's not necessarily perfect, but it's great. But you saw the conviction they had in doing all that work for the mouse, and after that creating that video and promoting it. That's what made me like put my money where my mouth is. So if you can do that with your service, with your product, and showing conviction, showing that you're willing to go the extra mile, that's how you win a customer. And you can see this, I'll go to the sports metaphor again, you can see this also in situations like when you play, let's say when you play football with your mates, and even if you suck at football, if you're screaming at them, asking for a pass so you could score, and they see the emotion and your willingness to make a difference, even if they know you most probably will miss the target, they will still give you the pass, and you'll have a great time. So even if you might be facing a competitor in your industry that's better than you, if they see the conviction, and conviction can be done through great customer support. You see this a lot of often in companies where you call customer support and they give you this automated message saying, okay, so you have the annoying jingle in the background, and then you have a voice saying, a very indifferent voice saying, we care about your business and about your time, but currently all our operators are busy. Well, it would be a much more effective way to show you're caring if someone would actually answer the phone, and I wouldn't have to listen to this horrible jingle. So, like I said, you could show conviction in the manufacturing of your product or in the way you offer customer support or in any aspect of your business, and that usually goes a long way. Moving on. The last point of writing an effective copy is, an effective headline is, does it point to the copy below? As I said initially, the headline needs to grab attention. I said that it might as well be written in Greek if it doesn't grab attention and point to the copy below, because you don't just want people's attention, as I said earlier. You want them to make a purchase, to do something. You want them to take an action, be it become a customer, be it be informed about something. And it's very important that your copy doesn't only grab attention, but also through curiosity, through everything, through the style. It needs to encourage people to read on, not just, okay, I've read the headline, I'm done. And then we have the copy of the structure. In the copywriting course I have, you'll see and maybe read about this and hear in much more detail. What I want to offer you is let's call it a shortcut, although there aren't any real shortcuts. Let's say this is a simplified map of what the copy structure should be. And you start out with grabbing attention, with your headline, then the call to read on. You encourage people to read the entire copy, not just the headline. Then you build credibility. You can do this through testimonials. You can do this by offering usually a proof of concept of how the product works, or even showing an experience with, okay, if you're going to work with us, this is how the process will be. Then usually a lot of people get lost in the building credibility. It's like when you focus too much, you try too hard. That was the word I was looking for. You don't necessarily need to try too hard on building credibility, but at the same time try to be as effective as possible. And then you get back on track with the copy and make the offer, the initial offer, because at this point people know what you're about. They either trusted you, they either trust you or not. They've already made a decision in their head, and you make the actual offer. If some people will not become customers at this point, you then go for the risk relieving stage, where you, like I said, offer a risk-free solution, a trial period, a guarantee, or anything like that. And then you once again sum everything up, like what are the emotional benefits if they become your clients, and what are the reasons why maybe they should pick you over everyone else in the industry. So basically you make a quick summary of, this is why you should become my client and not someone else's. And then something that's very often overlooked or not focused a lot on is making it easy for people to buy. Because, okay, I want to become your client, but if it's a pain for me to give you money, and you see this on, and I think everyone listening has had this experience when you wanted to buy something, but it was extremely either annoying in terms of the usability of a website you were on, or you wanted to buy, but you saw that, oh, delivery will be in 2 weeks from now, and if you don't make it easy for people to make the transaction, the likelihood of you losing interested qualified buyers is very high. So make sure, and you should go this like manually, do it yourself, like, or have a friend make a call to your company or go to your website and try to make a fake purchase and see if the process can be optimized, if the experience can be improved. And then you have the call to action, which is pretty straightforward and to the point. Moving on, it's about the qualities of all great copy. So you've written your copy, it might be something like 200 words, or it might be something like, I don't know, 2,000 words, and you need to make sure it has the following characteristics. So we've already discussed it needs to be personal. If you know your target audience, you know what conversation that they're already having in their head, you know the things they like, you know the things they hate, you know all the data, all the demographics data. So we've got that solved by doing proper initial research. Then it needs to be focused. It needs to be, a lot of times it needs to be to the point, because if I have a problem, if I have a need, first I need to know if you can solve that problem, and I don't need to, and after I know that you could solve the problem, then I might read some additional benefits, some, I don't know, some key points, some success story. But first, I need to know if you could actually solve the reason why I'm here. Then it needs to be specific, and usually people are skeptic. It's like in our nature to be skeptic. Many of us have been at some point victims of, I don't know, fraud, being scammed or something like that. Even if it's our fear to be fools in any situation. So if you can back all your arguments with some data, with some, like I said, success stories, testimonials that are very specific and like proven results, then it's a lot much easier for people to trust you and make a purchase than if you're very vague and imprecise. Then it needs to have a logical progression. We've already discussed in the past few minutes the overall roadmap of your copy, and if you follow that, you could even simplify it even more. But if you follow those elements, it will be a lot easier. But always make sure you're not all over the place and lose people in the sale process. Also needs to be emotional. We've already discussed this with you going from the features layer to the functions, the practical benefits, and then to the emotional benefits. And also it needs to keep momentum. When people are ready to buy, don't stand in their way and make it easy for them to become clients. So you're going to write copy, right? And obviously we all need some form of approval, some form of validation. So how do you ask for feedback and know that it's good feedback? It's not the kind of feedback that, okay, it's make you feel good feedback. So you'll ask friends, colleagues, family, and what I encourage you to do is tell them to be ruthless, not to tell you something. Tell them that whatever they write in their feedback about your copy, to not care about. To imagine you don't get upset or have any feelings towards it, because it's much better that a friend tells you that your copy sucks and it's not effective than someone telling you it's great and you spending a lot of money in promoting that ad, that flyer, or that campaign, when it could have saved you a lot of money and headaches down the road if you had authentic feedback. So once again, encourage negative feedback. And in terms of making sure it has everything we said earlier, like good momentum, a proper flow, the things you could do, so you could do a slow read and identify things like typos and potential errors at the sentence level, and then do a fast read and you'll identify if you cover all the key points we mentioned earlier, or if you lose tempo at some point, or maybe if something needs to change. So it's very important, and initially when I first heard this myself, you're like skeptic. Yeah, I just read it once slow and once fast, and I get all this info about the quality of my product, but it works. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And then there's this problem that a lot of people, usually people that are first time in sales, are, I don't know, reluctant to sell. And you might think that, okay, there's the story I heard from Dan Kennedy, which is arguably one of the best copywriters on this planet. And he tells a story about a salesman that was selling pots and pans, I think. And he goes to this house, and the family didn't look like they did pretty well financially. One of the children looked sick, the type of sick that is like, it's not the flu, it's ongoing expenses sick. You find out from the conversation the dad didn't work for 3 months, and instantly the salesman is becoming reluctant and thinks to himself, maybe they should invest their money in something else than the pots and pans I'm selling. And immediately once he does this and becomes reluctant to sell, the family gets angry and aggressive because they feel insulted. I mean, who are you to make that decision for us, basically? And the way you should look at this is that money is not a finite resource. If they don't spend, and if they're at this point in their life financially, odds are that they will be in the same place at some point in the future as well, because maybe they have a problem in the way they approach money as a concept. So you don't need to be, although it might sound harsh and cruel, you don't need to think of this as in, okay, they should use that money for a better cause, because if it's not you, it will be something else that again is not solving the underlying problem of the way they look at money as a concept. So never be reluctant to sell, because money is always replenishing yourself. Have you ever been broke? I mean, I know I've been a few times in my life, so broke is a temporary thing. Like, not having money is always temporary, and money always finds a way to replenish itself. You pay off your debts, you get a better job, you switch jobs, and money is never like, I'm broke. It's not a permanent disease that you carry with you for your entire life, but it always replenishes yourself. And the only reason you get to become broke at certain points in your life is because, I don't know, it's maybe more a problem of education and how you see money as a concept than how money works in real life. And the last and probably most effective advice on copywriting is practice, because there is no shortcut. You'll just get better as you write. Maybe this webinar that told you how to create an effective customer profile could be considered a shortcut, because if you didn't use it in the past and you will start using it today or tomorrow, it's like 1 hour of your time, you will see results, and you will see huge results. But the better you get, the smaller the increments at which you will grow will get as well. So the only way for you to become better at copywriting is to write more copy, test as many campaigns as possible, and the more you do it, the better you will get at it. And that's about all. If you take anything from this webinar, is that it's important to investigate before you invest, because this could be not necessarily just marketing but business as well. and it's always efficient, and it's always good to know who you're talking to. It's not necessarily just copywriting to sell. It's copywriting when dealing with friends, when dealing with everyday problems. If you better understand the person you're talking to, you will offer a much better solution, and they will also feel that you understand them. And as Stephen Covey said in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, think first to understand, then to be understood. It's one of the principles. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. I hope this webinar was helpful to you. Looking forward to do more in the future. As I said 2 slides ago, I appreciate all feedback, even if it's negative feedback. So I wish to improve myself, and each time I do this, to offer you more value and I don't know, improve your business and hopefully your lives as well. So that was all. If Paul has anything to add, or also don't forget the Q&A section. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them, and ask away.
Thank you, Doru. That was a great webinar. I have a question here from Brenda Walters, and she asks, how do I profile for accountancy services customers? Do you have any tips for Brenda?
Okay, so to answer Brenda, how do you create a customer for accountancy? Well, you could approach this the other way around. I presume in fact, I hope you already have a few clients, and you identify what industries those clients are in and tackle those industries. So let's say you do accountancy for, I don't know, for people that do home decoration or something like that, and you target specifically businesses that are in home decoration. You go either locally or use Google AdWords and search, or use just Google and search for as many businesses that are similar to your clients. So basically, if you have 1-2 clients, you just create the profile of that specific client and then get more of that client, but obviously different companies. So that would be a way to approach this. And also you could think about other industries that are potential clients. You could just sit down with yourself or with a business associate and think of all the industries that you're relevant to. So if you don't have any clients, you build the profile thinking of what are my ideal clients. And by ideal, you think about things like, okay, what's the bottom line? What are ideal clients in terms of revenue? What are ideal clients in terms of not having headaches? And also you could, by using this technique, you could specialize. Basically, you could be like, okay, I'm an accountant for lawyers or something like that. So you could be an accountant for a specific industry, and you learn a lot about that specific industry's needs and the exact requirements they might have. And let's say you're, like I said initially, you do accountancy for people that do, I don't know, home decoration or something like that. If I were someone that was a home decorator, I'd much rather pick an accountant that works with other home decorators, because he or she knows my exact specific business needs and problems and hiccups. And like I said, that person already does that, so it's much more likely to trust a person that understands my business, understands my industry, than someone that's generic. So you could do one of the 2 things I mentioned. Hope I helped. Any more questions?
Thanks, Doru. I think that's all we've got time for today. So thank you for attending, everyone. If you enjoyed this webinar, you might be interested in Doru's copywriting Facebook and Twitter courses, which you can find on our website. So thanks for coming along today, and we hope you will join us for on a future webinar. Thanks everybody. Thank you, Doru.